welcome to this exciting panel discussion. It's officially started. Today we will be talking about how to grow your startup in the Paris region with tips from investors and founders in less than 1 hour. My name is Thomas FAUVEL, and I am Deeptech industry expert at Choose Paris region. For those of you who don't know Choose Paris region yet, we are the economic development agency of the Paris region. Our mission is to advise and support international companies looking to expand in the first tech and business ecosystem in Europe. We provide free of charge confidential services to more than 1,000 companies every year. This can be market insights, connections to the ecosystem, legal support, recruitment, and much more. Now, before we get to the agenda and introduce our panelists, I wanted to go over a few quick housekeeping items. The first is this session recorded? The answer is yes. You'll receive a link to the replay at the end. That brings us to the next housekeeping item, questions. You can hear us, but we can't hear you. So there's a couple of ways to communicate. Look at the tabs on the top right of your screen. You can use the chat to comment, discussion, or let us know if there is a technical issue. Or you can just say, hello, I'm from Helsinki. There will be a Q&A at the end. You can ask us questions all along the presentation, type them in the question tab, and we will try to get back to you. You can even vote for your favorite question to bring them up to the table. So there is a third way to communicate, and we will ask you questions through the polls tab. So right now, you can check it, and you can answer a first question to let us know the kind of investment you're looking for. So yes, it's going on. Excellent. So we'll discover the results in a few seconds. While you do so, let's take a look at the agenda today. After the introduction of our panelists, I'll give them the floor to start the discussion for about half an hour, and we will have a short video before. Then we'll start a Q&A time, so you have plenty of time to think about the right question you may ask them. We will end with some information about the upcoming webinars and contact details. All right, let's get started. So please welcome our first speaker, Alison Humbert. Alison, you're principal at Partech, a global VC fund with HQ based in Paris, founded in 1982. With $1.5 billion assets under management, investing from seed to 50 million euros. Is it right, Alison?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Alison, personally, you hold a double master's degree in engineering from the very best school in Paris region, and you chose to join Partech as a seed investor 3 years ago. Can you tell us why and how do you leverage your engineering background today?
Yes, sure. I think being an engineer helps. It's not like a mandatory, but it gives you kind of a background, some reflex, some culture to assess the deals. In seed and Partech, we are like doing 89% of deals are in tech. So we're going to give you some strengths to faster analyze some deals, ask a good question, and yeah, basically that's it. And in the end, we all have like very different backgrounds. Some are like researchers, ex-researchers, some are ex-entrepreneurs or ex-consultants, but in the end, we are all engineers. So I guess it's working quite well.
Yes, it helps a lot. And you're principal at Paris-Saclay campus seed fund. Yeah. In a few words, what it is?
So it's not a campus, it's a fund. So it's called Paris-Saclay Seed Fund. Mm-hmm. So it's a 53 million fund that invests only in entrepreneurs coming from this area. So basically, you have like a couple of schools like HEC, Polytechnique, Centrale Supélec, Telecom, and some research lab and lab center like ENS, CEA, and so on. So we only invest in founders coming from the schools. It's pre-seed seed, so we invest between 200K to 1 million. It's totally fine for us to invest pre-product, pre-traction. So the goal is to make like bets, mostly in tech, very tech companies, and then to keep on like supporting them all along the way until Series A, Series B, and so on.
Thank you very much, Alison. Second speaker today, please welcome Chloé Gillard. Chloé, hi, you're investment director at ID Invest Partners, major player in European venture capital with global footprint and the HQ based in Paris. According to Crunchbase, you're the most active European VC in Europe with a 2.1 billion euro assets under management. You can invest from seed to Series C. Am I right?
Yes.
Excellent. Your background is in business management and M&A. You specialized in fintech and SaaS. Even though you're not an engineer like Alison, you're fond of tech and you spend your time dealing with the growth of tech startups. So what drives you most in this challenging mission?
Sure. So after a few experiences in M&A and startup in Boston, Shanghai, and London, so I joined ID Invest early 2014, and so I'm part of the venture fund of ID Invest. So if Series A and B, but we're quite flexible. We can invest from seed to growth stage, and so the idea for us is really to back great teams addressing huge market. And what's quite exciting in this part of the job is really to discover some people, some persons who can think that they could be great founders. And we have a big network at the level to help us define what kind of trends, what kind of technical trends, and what kind of innovation could be a great asset in the future. So my job is really to be able to build a network that can give me some great advice and some recommendations, and then once we've invested in a company to help our founders to better hire, to get some advisors, and also to get new customers.
Okay, thank you, Chloé, for this preliminary presentation. We'll find out more tips from you and this precious network soon. Now, let's jump to Guillaume Laporte. Hi, Guillaume, you're CEO at Mindsay. That you co-founded back in 2016. Mindsay is now a leader in conversational AI based in Paris. You raised $11 million so far, and today you have 40 employees, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You're a Swiss citizen. You live in Paris since you studied entrepreneurship at HEC, the top-notch business school of the Paris region. What inspired you to start Mindsay Up?
So Mindsay, we started off in September 2016, so 4 years ago. And at the time, I was just finishing my master's degree in business and entrepreneurship. I was already working with my two other co-founders, both engineers, Elias and Pierre. And we were actually doing a field trip in the Silicon Valley. And we heard about the keynote from Mark Zuckerberg. That was in April 2016, when Facebook announced that they were splitting their app between Messenger and Facebook, and they were introducing bots as a new capability to engage between companies and consumers. And at the time, we thought this was going to be a new way to interact between companies and people. And we really wanted to get into that trend. So when we flew back to Paris, we started working on our prototype, our first algorithms, and we started signing our first customers. And what we do at Mindsay is using conversational AI and process automation. We help companies reduce their customer service and customer experience costs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Great introduction. Thank you, Guillaume, for sharing your inspiration with our viewers today. Last but not least, welcome to Robin Choi. Rob, you're CEO at HireSuite that you co-founded in 2016 too. HireSuite solves probably the biggest challenge in a startup's life: picking the best team members. And to do so, you use machine learning to scour right candidates. You raised $1.8 million so far. And today you have 30 employees. As you are growing fast, is it up to date?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, okay. You're a friend, to be honest, of Guillaume from HEC, where you also studied entrepreneurship, and you are very involved in the Paris entrepreneurs community. You can tell us maybe how HireSuite reached the point where it is now expanding to the US market?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually in school with Guillaume. Launched the company just 1 month after Mindsay, and we started with this very important pain point, which is hiring, especially hiring software engineers. So if you want to check us out, basically the selling proposition of HireSuite is to help startups getting rid of agencies and third parties for a fraction of the price. So this is a very efficient value proposition that works very well with HireSuite websites not working, should be, which is working very well with the with startups especially. And we what's very interesting is that we use Paris and the Paris region as a launchpad. We got our first customers here, and then quickly expand into the US market, which we start to know very well. We're Y Combinator backed. We went in through YC 9 months ago, so we also have a foothold in the US and in SF. And yeah, that's about it for us. And I'll be happy to talk about the differences between the French and the US ecosystem as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Robin, for sharing your experience with us. Let's have a short video called Startup Home. This video will teach you a lot, and we come back to the discussion just afterwards.
Hi, my name is Alice Zaguri. I'm the CEO and co-founder of The Family. Basically, at The Family, we believe that anyone can become an entrepreneur. It's a place, a community, where we give education, tools, and access to capital to more than 200 startups in Europe. At the beginning, we wanted to provide a shelter that would help ambitious people build or make their dream come true.
My name is Samantha Yerushalmi. I'm partner here at Alaya Partners, VC fund that was born in 2002.
I'm Laure Wagner. I was the first employee of BlaBlaCar 10 years ago, and now I'm a corporate communications manager and spokesperson. BlaBlaCar is a French startup that connects drivers with passengers going the same way.
Why Paris now? So the first chance for me is the mentality of the whole ecosystem in terms of entrepreneurship mindset.
The Paris region is a very good region to have a tech startup because we have great talents. We have a lot of very good engineers.
We have the best technology because of academics that we have, laboratory that we have.
You have a lot of incubators, investors. It makes it easy to launch a new tech startup.
This is the best of more than London, more than Berlin, more than everywhere in Europe to build the next unicorn.
You can make a difference in a place where the things are not written yet. So you can come with your difference. You can come with a singularity.
Excellent. Nice overview of the startup atmosphere in the Paris region. I hope you liked it. Now let's go ahead and let's open the discussion with our guest speakers. Ladies first, as investors, you are looking for breakthrough technologies with a huge market potential. You evaluate risk every day, right? So since AI-based businesses boomed in the 2015s, the technologies like ML, machine vision, deep learning became more mature. Based on your experience to assess such startups, what is a promising AI business for you?
Should I
start?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So as I said, for an investor, we invest at Series A and B. So it's more when we have a model ready to scale. So our investment thesis is really to a very ambitious team, huge market, and then for AI, it's actually a critical point because we see quite a few technologies, well, quite a few companies that have a technology, but quite a disruptive technology, but not really addressing a pain point or a market yet. And so that's not the point where we can sustainably invest. So I'm interested to know if, Alison, you could invest at that stage. But so for us, really, for an AI business, the criteria would be, is this AI technology addressing a market big enough and scalable globally? And is this company really building responsibility? You know, are they working in the technology that is really competitive compared with legacy players?
Okay, so Alison, you maybe have a complementary point of view on this.
Yeah, totally. To complement on that, so in seed we have, I mean, not much. So we spend much more time on team, of course, and there you can look at if there are like some research background, are there like using some algorithm that are like more on the shelf or well known, or is that like something super destructive where there is still research on it? You can look as well at, are they able to attract talents from the best background of the startup around the world to help them to build that, because you're not going to do it on your own for sure. So that's stuff that we can look at. We will not look at the code, but then you can as well look at where the data is coming from, how do they train the model, and at the end, is you need to make a balance between something like super disruptive but going to take ages to be developed, and something that is going to be like kind of too easy, where there is like strong competition either from incumbent or other maybe startup in the US. So everything is about like finding the right balance, and of course, as Chloe said, like huge opportunity, and the product should be a game changer for the user.
A kind of compromise between two deep tech and tech, so in between a normal deep tech.
I agree with Alison. Actually, it's this point when we say great teams, I think actually a good way to assess a great team is the ability of the founders to hire and attract the top profiles.
Excellent. Jumping onto the next question, I have to go a bit deeper in the market potential of AI, because in a recent survey from the World Economic Forum, 91% of French companies indicated then that by 2025, their company will likely or very likely to have adopted artificial intelligence as part of its growth strategy. As AI business owners, Guillaume and Rob, do you believe in this survey? And according to you, what is the maturity of the French market in terms of AI adoption?
Maybe you can start, Guillaume.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, first, I think that the French ecosystem is quite mature. we had that first wave of artificial intelligence companies, people basically believing customers and investors or agents and just dropping AI buzzwords everywhere on their landing page. And this mostly died now, and the ecosystem is very educated and very mature in that. And this is very insightful, very helpful that we're now able to create real AI-based companies, even though AI shouldn't be and machine learning should be an end in itself, but rather a means to an end. And that's how the market evolved. So it feels like today people are no longer in this first stage where they're happy to buy anything that has an AI label on it. And now they just want to understand how the AI and machine learning, any kind of software will actually increase improve their processes, increase their return, etc., which is very exciting for actual AI machine learning software companies that are able to leverage that tech to increase the value for customers. So I think we're right at the beginning of this second wave, but still not mature enough so that there remains a lot of opportunities, hopefully.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So business development is promising, and it is changing. Yeah.
If I could add something here, I think there's also a slight difference between the adoption of AI between startups that actually have implemented some sort of AI and large companies that are slower to implement those kind of things. So if you look a little bit at the AI buzzword that was dropped in the past, basically corporates, they were starting to work with a startup that has any sorts of small NLP or machine learning, but it's actually very simple. It's like, how to cook a potato. It's super simple to do. Everyone can do it. And now I think companies are more focusing on what is the added value of the end product of the company. So I agree with Robin. We are in that second phase where now also big groups are trying to understand how it works and how to implement it in their companies.
At Mindsay, you have a return on investment calculator, and that's a sign that that's what your customers are looking for. How does it work?
Well, as I said before, we use NLP, conversational AI process automation, to help reduce customer service volumes for companies. And the goal of reducing the customer service volume is for them to reduce the associated cost. So when we work with a large company, they usually work with us because by using Mindsay, they will have 10, 20, 30, 40% less volume for their customer service agents, and they'll be able to save money from their external call center provider.
Excellent. Alison, Chloe, feel free to react on this based on your portfolio of startups as well, if you wish.
Well, this point is quite promising, I think, for our market because, obviously most companies are not ready to do that internally. So either they're going to work with software that use AI, or they're going to work with software just like the Daiku, for instance, that's going to help them use AI within their companies. So, what I can say is that we're not there yet, and we should find many startups in the coming years to fund to help most of the French market and European market to achieve that.
Yes, agree. Okay. Next topic, I suppose that some of you have heard about the High Paris Institute, Research Institute. It's one of the numerous research labs specialized in AI in the Paris region. I choose to highlight High Paris because it's a unique joint center between a business school and an engineering school It aims at conducting breakthrough and multidisciplinary research on AI and data science, while simultaneously developing new education program and fostering innovation. As HEC or Polytechnic alumni, for some of you, and employers of engineers coming from these schools, what do you think of this new international AI champion, and what is also your point of view on this large offer of research?
Maybe I can start.
Yes, I see.
I mean, I do believe it's great to mix like business profile and very tech profile. For AI and for research in general, that is working as well for biotech and medtech, because we have great talents in those areas, and sometimes missing a bit of business sense. So when combine both, I mean, it's a great recipe to come up with great ideas and then launch a startup, because it's something to switch from more research academic way of thinking to a real business. They're going to work, they're going to make money, they need to be big, and you need to be educated on that. And I really believe that this kind of initiative can help those young wannabe entrepreneurs with a lot of skills to launch their project.
Maybe it's also a sign that the engineers have more and more a business-minded, are business-minded people. Do you agree with that?
Yes, more and more, but you can't have like all the brain at the same time. You can be a CTO and a CEO, and I mean, you need to have complementary skill around the table. I mean, I guess Guillaume can elaborate on that. So I'm more in believer on mixing the profile than trying to be everything at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think this type of initiative is good because they allow, as Alison said, more technical people, engineers, scientists to work with business people, and very good innovations comes out of AI labs in France. So that's a big opportunity. I think this type of things, sometimes we can be a bit complacent about them. Like we think, okay, we have this new initiative, so therefore there's going to be 10 new unicorns in Paris just because we have created that. I think it's a bit too early to, take the bottle of whiskey and have drinks and say, okay, perfect, we have the perfect ecosystem. But it's certainly a great initiative in that direction.
It's one of 4 different public-private research centers that have been created the 2 last years. So it's just one initiative, and that's an example, of course. And interdisciplinary training course is now a standard. I mean, this is more and more how people want to enter the AI business and to be a talent that you can source.
Right, and
so,
just there's not only High Paris. There's a lot of interdisciplinary training courses. So 4 years ago, where we were in school together with Guillaume, this is where we met our CTO Ismail. He's a guy who went through the École Normale Supérieure, so it is a very famous high school for a very famous training for engineers. He did the international Olympiads in informatics. So this is the type of guy that can code with a pencil, with a pen, right? He can write on the paper, and this code will compile. And you don't find those people in business schools, but you do find them in these mixed courses. And without this opportunity, we wouldn't have met Ismail, he wouldn't have met us, and we wouldn't have been able to create the company. So there's not only these big, like, famous initiatives, but this is also deeply embedded within the education, the trainings, the universities, and there's a lot of ways to connect between different schools.
Thank you. Rob. True. So now I wanted to show you some things about the last for the last 6 years or so. There is a great momentum for Paris region's tech startups. There are about 8,000 startups in the Paris region now. And especially true in AI, the ecosystem, as we said, is mature and efficient and based on your success stories. Can you explain what are the strengths of this ecosystem? What makes possible the rise of so many promising startups? The picture we see here is a view of Station F, the largest startup campus in the world with we say 1,000 startups under the same roof. So can you share with us, the role of incubators and accelerators for you, Guillaume or Rob?
Robin, you want to go ahead with YC?
Yeah, maybe. Well, we went through YC in the US, so that's also a different story. And there we found a very strong ecosystem, but that strong ecosystem we found probably even stronger ecosystem at Agoranov, which is one of the incubator we went to in Paris 4 years ago. So very different state of mind, but what I really enjoyed about Agoranov was the link to the public research and engineering schools. That's super strong, and that's the kind of things that you find. And depending on the company and the things that you want to focus on your company, you can pick different incubators, different accelerators. So there's Agoranov if you want to do really like deep tech, research stuff. There is also Station F, which is a huge hub where you can talk to a lot of companies. If you need to iterate quickly, that's a very good place to be. There's, again, the family. There's all these different hubs. And the network in Paris is very, again, super strong. And which is interesting is all these hubs are in Paris, right at the middle in Paris. So you can live in Paris, go to your incubator. It's 20 minutes away by metro or foot or bike. And all this ecosystem really works together. If I want to go see Guillaume, he's just 20 minutes away working or by bike. So it's very easy, and it's a very deeply knitted ecosystem.
Okay, thank you. Is it also a place where you scout your next venture, Chloe or Alison?
Yes, of course. I mean, Agoranov is a very good one, actually. And there's a couple of others that you can talk about the EF, so Entrepreneur First program, that is really good at mixing actually a scientific profile with more business profile. So we are like, I mean, same for investment part. Like we are sourcing everywhere, and for sure there is like very good talent here. And if I can add something about the talent, what I do believe is a real strength of Paris and maybe France more generally, it's like we have access to amazing profile, tech profile, and far cheaper than in the US. So as we are like a VC cross-border, we tend to see our companies at launch and keep the tech in France, where they have access to amazing profile, and maybe launch the business or expand at least the business in the US.
Excellent. This creates an excellent link with another topic I wanted to talk about, which is this key resource for any fast-growing startup, especially the AI sector. Talents in AI, they are not easy to find, and available developers even more difficult to find. So Rob, you're well positioned to know that. Well, what is the situation in Paris region in terms of AI specialist availability?
Well, there is a lot of very good engineering schools in France, actually top engineering schools in the world that even people in the US envy us. And we're really toe-to-toe to the best engineering schools, again, MIT, Stanford, etc., etc. So we have top engineers. They're actually very cheap, but we can develop on that later. Very, very much cheaper than than anywhere in the US, for instance. And the competition exists, and I'm sure Alison and Chloe will say that a lot of their portfolio companies struggle hiring good engineers. But again, so again, I'm speaking for my own business, but if you have the right tools, then you end up hiring people. And we see the actual numbers that we see in a prospecting funnel when people go and reach out to passive candidates are much better than a lot of any other ecosystem. So it's much easier to hire a top engineer in Paris than in New York or God forbid, in SF. So strong network, very strong engineers, very cheap, and actually rather easy to hire.
Okay. And did you start your business by hiring some of them?
Sure. Well, most of our engineers are either from these schools. I won't name them.
Okay.
But yeah, and also on a personal note, we also have a podcast about building great teams. And as Chloe said, hiring a team of top performers is also a good sign of the best founders. The ability to attract top profiles. It's not actually very hard to do. So I'll be happy to share the link to the to our podcast. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. It's in the chat. Thank you, Rob, for sharing this. It's a good way to follow up on the topic. And do you have any remark, Guillaume, based on the talent sourcing?
Sure. I think I'm just confirming what Robin said, but in Paris, because there are such great engineering schools, you can really find great engineers overall. I think people tend to mix a bit the two topics, the data scientists and software engineers. They're two very different things, and they are not attracted by the same type of project, the same type of companies. So it's not like there is a Bible to hire engineers in one way. There are really different ways to hire software engineers and data scientists. And for example, for us, Robin's company, HireSuite, has been very helpful to hire engineers at Mindset. We have, at some point, I think we were the first hire of École Polytechnique for interns. I think that was in 2017, 2018. So, and Robin's tool, HireSuite, actually allowed us to hire 5 to 10 engineers over the first 2 years, if I'm correct. So it's really a proof that there is a big pool of talents, and that there are the tools as well available on the market to hire those talents.
Yes, of course. Great example. Thank you. Maybe you want to add something, Alison, on top of this, because the ecosystem we are talking about, the ecosystem of schools and research, is maybe your source of entrepreneurs, deep tech entrepreneur.
No, I'm pretty much aligned with what has been said, to be honest.
Okay.
And it's funny as like most of my founders are coming from Polytechnique. It's exactly what Guillaume described. Then they tend to have like a source of intern, and then they convert them as a full-time when they are like after studies. And in this grid, I mean, we are really seeing something on the making here.
Okay. Thank you. I come back to to another topic. We have this conversation in the framework of Slush, not by Slush community gathering. And I wanted to talk about the Nordics, because this seems to be the most dynamic AI startup ecosystem in Europe. What kind of companies do you scout over there, Chloe? What kind of differences do you see between Nordic startups and French one?
Well, all individual entrepreneurs are different, but what we like in the Nordic is that their own markets are a bit smaller. So founders have a global mindset from the beginning, which we find interesting. Well, because when we look at the French market, so we can see quite successful startups just only addressing the French market. And if you look at Finland or other countries in the Nordic, it's not possible. So this has quite an impact on the mindset and the ambition. So that's the first point. And I think that the main the main criteria that is very different from other entrepreneurs in Europe.
Okay, agree. I think that people from the Nordics, entrepreneur from the Nordics will recognize it. You're welcome to expand, and that's what we do at Choose Paris Region. We welcome you and we support your expansion. So the topic of VC funding is of course at the center of this conversation. Sorry for this quite messy slide, but this is to say that France is a centralized country, and the same applies to VC funding. Every year, Paris region's VC funding represents 70% of France's total amount. It has been increasing steadily in the Paris region over the past 5 years, so much so that it reached 3.5 billion euros in 2019, and it is estimated at 5 billion euros in 2020. How do you adapt to this fast moving environment, Chloé? How do you follow this trend?
Well, I think that this trend is quite a global trend, meaning that funds globally are raising even more funds each year. And obviously we see that the French market is catching up. So over the past 6-7 years, the French fund ecosystem has matured a lot. And what's interesting also is that now we see that we really cover the whole funding ecosystem, funding cycle. So the most recent trend is the creation of quite a few seed funds. So just like the ones from Alison. And another trend at the end of the cycle is also the launch of many growth funds of few billions of 1 billion euro or more. So that means that now French entrepreneurs can really launch and get finance as a company in France and grow and scale while keeping French funds. So that's an interesting trend. And all this funding also helped put the French market on the map. And we're now seeing many international funds. So the usual suspects like Index, Balaton, Axel, but also many other funds from Europe and the US. Going after French entrepreneurs. And so that's a very interesting trend. So French funds getting bigger and much more active, international funds going also after these companies and co-investing with local funds. And I think it definitely helps French entrepreneurs because they benefit from a much more diverse network.
Excellent. Is there any comment on that? Did you benefit from it, Rob and Guillaume? So far, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did raise with a European fund, which was Global Funders Capital, so a German fund, and the ability to access funds all around Europe and more European players coming to France. So definitely a huge plus for the ecosystem.
Excellent. Attractive.
Yeah, obviously us for sure. Partech is an investor in Mindsay and was the investor during the seed round. So the venture capital ecosystem in Paris is just crazy. It went from being like 10 years ago like a third world city like Buenos Aires to like the most top-notch ecosystem like San Francisco.
to answer a question that we received during from the participant. The Paris region is the third in Europe for venture capital after London, and nearly equal with Berlin. So it's to say on what we are competing with. So let's go to another topic, please. A topic that is in fact related to an important fact. Paris region offers the highest concentration of HQs of Fortune 500 companies in Europe, 27 to be accurate. It's the third highest concentration in the world after Beijing and Tokyo. So how do you make the most of this presence to boost your growth, boost the growth of the startups of your portfolio? Maybe, yes, Chloe or Alison, can you tell us about this presence of large corporations?
Yes, sure. I mean, at Partech, we have a lot of corporates that are investors, so LPs in our fund. So we will very well know all this ecosystem. I mean, I guess Guillaume can as well comment on that. But so it's helping. Then we need to take some precaution in terms of maturity to adopt such a technology. It's on the making as well. I will say, to be totally transparent, it helps a lot entrepreneurs to be challenged because, I mean, those incumbents are not nowhere. They are not, I mean, you can't be a big company like that without any like tech behind and a solid business model for sure and great people inside. But when it comes from innovation, it's getting better and better, but there is still some room for improvement to adopt faster technologies like Mindset, for example.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we've definitely seen this, is that a lot of large corporates, they try to do a lot of projects with startups, but most of them are stopped at the pilot stage. So adopting new technologies at big scale is really something that it has just started, and it's maturing for large French companies.
Okay, so it's a good starting point to be close to these large corporations, but it's not enough. You have to convince them, of course. So we have many questions that came on the topic of support. It was and it's quite normal. It was an area of interest for many startups from abroad. In France, government is very supportive, so especially for tech companies. And I wanted you to talk about this kind of support. Rob, Guillaume, is there any support from the local government that you benefited from?
Yeah, absolutely right. And that's also one of the one of the biggest strengths of the French ecosystem. It is that it's actually super easy to get started. They say it's very protective to like butterflies or early stage companies, and then you have to grow outside of France to grow a unicorn. But when you're that butterfly, is very supportive, very protective. You get the Jeune Entreprise Innovante, you get the Crédit Impôt Recherche, so a lot of tax deductions. And again, if you do the math, and I did it for you, the average salary for an engineer in France, it's 50,000 euros, and that's 60,000 with taxes, because there is already a 10,000 discount. So 60,000 with taxes, and then you get a 25,000 tax deduction with both the Jeune Entreprise Innovante and the Crédit Impôt Recherche that you see here. So it's very, 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 very supportive, and there's very few places in the world where you get engineers, very top engineers, at 35,000 euros per year. So that's definitely very good, and it's a very good place to grow your startup. And again, think butterflies, not unicorns, because then you'll probably have to grow, find a bigger market again, etc., etc. But these smaller startups, and if you're in the early stage of a company, if you want to grow the company from 0 to 100 employees, then that's one of the best places on Earth. And again, that's also comparing with the US ecosystem, where it's much tougher. It's much tougher to do real research and development in the early stage of your company because it's so expensive, and it just kills a lot of R&D companies. Whereas in France, you can live longer with these tax deductions, a lot of help, and that's very, very useful. I think also, Thomas, you will probably want to at some point say something about the work laws in French, which have a bad reputation but are actually quite flexible, and then we can all talk about that. But that's very flexible, very easy, very productive of the employees as well. But that's for the best, and also very protective of the entrepreneur. So, yeah.
Let's tackle this cliche, which is quite common, that and many foreign entrepreneurs, they tell me it's very difficult to fire someone in France. And you know, we have to fight this kind of cliche every day. So yes, the French labor laws changed a lot in the last 6 years, I guess. So could you tell us more about how you deal with employees every day? How do you can negotiate and discuss the contract?
So I think it's true and wrong what those cliches about the labor law in France. It's true that it's unusually complex. I think the labor law books are just that big in France and way too complex to navigate for a young entrepreneur. But at the end, when you put them in practice with companies, it's like Christmas for an entrepreneur, because it's very easy to implement and very easy to apply with your employees. Now you have measures to cancel a contract, to have long trial periods with employees. So there are a lot of measures that are easy to understand, easy to apply. It's just that understanding them in the first place is very hard. So you need to have good lawyers, and VCs are also helpful to introduce you to the right lawyers for startups.
We do this also at Choose Paris Region, and we can connect you with the right expert, from accountant to lawyers and so on. So feel okay with it. You can have support at every step. So last word, maybe you said quickly, Rob, that you have everything at reach when you work in Paris. So let's talk about a quite obvious topic, which is quality of life. In fact, what kind of environment do you offer to employees in the normal life? How would you compare Paris to the places where you also worked and live, just to give an overview of it?
So I'm a big fan of Paris. I lived in a couple of other cities, some of which I would probably see myself live longer term. But what I really enjoy in Paris, first, it's again small ecosystem in some ways. So everybody's close to each other. There's the Paris Intramuros, which is pretty small. Get all the companies close to each other, so it's easier to do business. You can see a lot of, if you're selling to startups, you can see 6, 7, 8 people every day. That's not a problem. You can have lunch. So that's very strong for networking, for entrepreneurs at least. And then for employees, then you get a rather sweet life. It's mostly sunny. You live in the city. You get most of the Parisian lifestyle. It's not some kind of tech hub outside the city. You just live right inside, right at the middle. In the middle of the city. So that's very strong as well. And that's something that I really enjoy, the ability to just be able to connect with people, mix with people, see them when you're having drinks, and connect with people, and see that everybody's part of the same adventure and living in the same boat. But also at the same time, you get a lot of diversity, people working in different industries, the cultural life, which is super intense in Paris, obviously. So this is a very healthy mix, both for entrepreneurs, I think, and for employees, obviously.
Thank you for sharing this. Maybe Alison, you take care of this specific ecosystem, which is Paris-Saclay. Paris-Saclay is 40 minutes away from the center of Paris, and it's very green. So there is also a pleasant side to be far from the dense urban center of Paris. Can you describe it a bit?
Oh, yes, it's great area. But at the same time, transportation could be improved.
Yeah,
I've
it will.
experienced it in the past when I was at school. So yes, there are a couple of companies there, mostly biotech, medtech, that need the labs. Otherwise, if you are like more a software company, you just need the people, and then you can have your office in the center of Paris, like Robin described it. But in terms of lab, actually there is a good quality, and a couple of companies that are still there. Sometimes it's hard to attract some talents, but most of the time they are like all passionate. So they move to Saclay in the middle of the countryside to operate their company.
Yes. Thank you for sharing this. So we have a short time for discussing some questions coming on the question tool of the session. So there is a quite technical question that comes from Hoang. Thank you, Hoang. The emergence and widespread usage of AI models has been facilitated by the readiness of data to train the models. In which sector do you see the most available data, and are these data publicly available to all startups, or are there barriers to entry to access these data? Do you use such data set, Guillaume or Rob, to implement your solution? Are you able to answer?
Yeah, but basically we build our own data sets. So again, talking about the ecosystem, what we do is we hire students that come in for the day. It's like a small job that they do for a couple of days, and we have 2 or 3 that come to the office and they train the AI for the day. It's a bit boring job, but they make some pocket money. And for us, we increase our data set. So we build those ourselves. To answer the question more precisely, what domains, it's very hard to answer. Maybe our VC friends have more answers. But I believe that in medical, it's very hard to gather data. So I don't know if that's just my thoughts.
Yes, I was about to say that actually. I think in medtech, there is a lot of things that going on because you have like more and more medical device. So you have like device that record the data of the patient from your heart, for your blood, anything. And on the other side, we are missing like doctors to analyze those data to give a diagnosis. So we are seeing an emergence of more and more companies in the space. For example, Idinvest and Partech actually has invested in cardiologs that are monitoring ECG, so electrocardiogram for your heart. But we made as well some other investment pretty much in the same space in Singapore. It's called EQ. So I really think that AI and health is gonna be, is already something, but it's gonna be a huge trend in the coming years for this reason.
So yeah, and I suppose that you will be interested by the next challenges coming from the Paris Regional Council that is funding some AI challenges, and one is for health. It will be soon announced, and I will also put this in my newsletter. So this give me an opportunity to reach the conclusion of this nice discussion. Thank you very much, all of you, for sharing your experience, your tips, and it's very precious. So I will send your contacts to the participants, but you're easy to contact also on LinkedIn, where you are very active. So some upcoming events. If you want to find out more about how to get your business started in Paris region, we have invited a finance expert and certified public accountant to explain the French legal framework, taxes, and incentive. So join us for this upcoming webinar on December the 2nd, and subscribe now. There is a pop-up coming to give you access directly to the this webinar, but you will also, right now, you will also receive a reminder just after this webinar. But feel free to click and save it for later. I also invite you to stay aware of events and business opportunities by subscribing to my newsletter called Digital Revolution. You see the link in the chat. It's made for the AI business developers. To receive a 2-minute reading every 2 months, subscribe now. Thank you very much. So I hope you enjoyed being with us today. Choose Paris Region Agency is at your service to help you expand in our beautiful region. It's time to say bye-bye and see you in our next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
to all of you. Have a good day.
Bye.